Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing podcast. Each week, John Kasman interviews multifamily and marketing experts to teach you how to find the best places to invest, attract investors, and grow your portfolio. You are listening to Target Market Insights with your host, John Kasman.
Welcome to Target Market Insights, the multifamily and marketing show. I'm your host, John Kasman, and I want to thank you for joining us for another great episode. Now, if you're enjoying the show, do me one quick favor and leave us that 5-star rating and review. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit the subscribe button so you don't miss an episode. Now, today we're going to be talking to Ishmael Abrokwa. Ishmael is a creative, strategic, insights-driven marketing leader with over 10 years of experience in brand building, engaging consumers, and inspiring teams. In his current role, amongst many other responsibilities, he helps to lead the transformation of data into actionable insights that help guide strategic development and brands positioning for global brands all over the world. With that said, let's welcome to the show, Ishmael Abrokwa.
John, thanks for having me, man. Glad to be on this platform with you. And before we get into anything, I just want to congratulate you on all things that you're doing with this platform. It's a great opportunity to just bring unique and diverse perspectives together to, draw in key insights to help motivate and inspire the audience that you're tapping into with this platform. So first and foremost, congrats to you and looking forward to our discussion.
Thank you, Ish. Hey, listen, for listeners, this is actually really, really special. Ishmael and I actually worked together for quite some time in the agency world. So I know you guys have heard about my background and we talk about, some of the stuff I did in advertising marketing. Well, this was one of the guys who was in the battlefields with me. So Ish, why don't you take a minute or two and give people a little bit more background and context on who you are?
Yeah, definitely. So to John's point, he and I worked together in the advertising industry for, close to 6 years. We've touched many brands in many categories from CPG to tech, from PepsiCo to Verizon and everything else in between, from hair care. And like I said, and everything else in between. And it's been a great journey on working with John. He's definitely somebody who pushed me in ways that I haven't been pushed before during my time at during our time at the agency. I can recall many times where I may have presented a social or digital strategy, and John was like, "Hey, man, this ain't it." Wearing his client hat and making sure that it was buttoned up in a way to where as though he felt compelled or he felt honored to, put that work in front of the client, but also giving me an opportunity to be in the room and, be a face on behalf of the agency, but also develop my position as a professional to, be more client facing and be engaged in conversation to, help drive business and impact across the brands we were working with. So that's a quick background on our working relationship. And, we both went off to do other things and, just grateful that it's brought us here today to be able to not just catch up, but, just kind of talk through what we're doing these days. And again, just how it works with what John has created with this platform.
Yeah. And listen, Ish, one of the things that always struck me was how savvy you were when it comes to, I'm going to say digital marketing holistically, but, in particular, you were just really plugged in. When we talk about understanding the social media platforms, understanding the influencers who had built networks and audiences, you always had your thumb on the pulse of who to tap into, but then also how to leverage them. Maybe you can give us some insight just on how you started to develop that keen sense of social media and digital marketing holistically.
Yeah, quite honestly, I've just always had a thirst for knowledge, right? And having that thirst for knowledge allowed for me to seek information outside of the, traditional realms of media, whether it's with the introduction of social media, that allowed for us to get a peek behind the curtain for a lot of the people who are behind some of the biggest campaigns or, initiatives that we've seen in the world. So for me, it was almost like, reading the credits on an album cover back in the day. For the younger listeners, you may not know anything about that, but it's like when you used to get, the CDs and you rip the plastic off, you would go straight to the booklets and read the album covers because you want to know who contributed to this beautiful piece of work. So it's no different in the advertising and marketing industry for me, where I'll see a beautiful or an amazing campaign, but I always wanted to know who was behind it. Who were the thought leaders that kind of brought this idea to fruition, whether it's the creative director, the project manager, just anybody who lended any type of contribution to this project. So through that, I was able to get an understanding of these, different positions, which sparked my interest in wanting to get into the advertising industry. So having that perspective on how things work across the board allowed for me to find my pathway, which was at the time a new business model being influencer marketing. As someone who had this thirst for knowledge and always wanted to seek out information, I've started developing relationships with some of these people, whether it was seeing them speak at conferences or sometimes even just commenting on posts and sending me DMs, because I always just felt like, you're only as good as the information that you have. And I'd much rather know, what's the correct term my dad always used to say is like, you rather know a lot about, no, a little about a lot versus a lot about very little. I hope that made sense.
Yeah, becoming an expert and going deep
Yeah,
with something that you can build a career off of or figure out a way to carry you in life. Yeah, man. I mean, your social knowledge I think is really strong, and you talk about influencer marketing. Let's dive into that a little bit because that's a lot of the work you did. I think initially when we were working
yeah,
together, and one of the things that just stood out to me, and honestly, it's probably the thing that many of our listeners may not be aware of, but it's a great tool, especially for a small business or entrepreneurs, even real estate investors. Being able to tap into influencers and doing influencer marketing can really help you get your brand in front of the right people and grow your audience. For those people who are hearing us say these words for the first time, can you start by just explaining what influencer marketing actually is?
I mean, influencer marketing is really just a spin on the idea of, celebrity endorsements. It's a concept where brands work with, individuals who may not even be celebrities, who have a niche audience built on shared values. So that's kind of like a great way to even approach the concept of influencer marketing, where again, the celebrity endorsements was like, hey, these people or this person has a following based on their celebrity, whether they're an athlete, singer, whatever. But in influencer marketing, it's unique because a person has built a following, whether small or large, just based on shared values between having a unique perspective or outlook on life. So for me, working in the advertising industry with this new business model of influencer marketing, it was great and unique because, in my experience, I've always worked across the multicultural segment. But as culture permeates all aspects of life. So the work that I've done has had the opportunity to transcend across segments. Because today's consumers, they represent a mindset rather than a race or age. So when working with influencers, for me, is less about, the number of followers one has, but more about the impact that they have on their followers through shared values and experiences. So if I'm someone who, always posts, if I have the means to be able to travel and always post about, different restaurants or, experiences that I'm engaging with through my travels, it's a natural fit to have a hospitality group or a spirits company endorse me because I've already built a following based on, shared values with my followers. But when there's opportunities where influencers take on or take these engagements with these brands, and there's no shared value between the influencer and the brand, their audience can see that. And you'll see the decline in engagement. You'll see the decline in, the output, through that relationship based on the influencer and that brand.
Yeah, man, you just tapped on something that was really, really key, right? Just talking about the authentic connection between a brand, an influencer, and the audience. If there's not really an authentic connection or kind of a clear value add for the audience, it's just going to fall flat. So you can't just go out there and hire whatever celebrity or whatever influencer you want to go, push your brand. It's not going to work. And you said something I want to go back to. I thought it was really, really a powerful statement. You said it's less about the number of followers and it's more about the impact that one has on their followers. Can you just elaborate on that point?
Yeah, oftentimes people feel that, in order to be an influencer or in order to get endorsed by a brand, you have to have thousands and thousands and thousands of followers, you know. But that's not the case, in my position, being someone who advocated for influencer marketing. The conversation I would always have with brands was based on, again, the niche audience that an influencer built based on those shared values. And you can look at them, side by side, where you put up someone who has a follower base of, let's just say, 10,000 followers versus someone who has a follower base of 2,000 followers. If you have the person with 10,000 followers, and they only have 100 to 200 likes on a post, or you don't see any engagement in their comments that's related to the post, but you have someone who has the smaller following, but you see at least 40% of their following engaging with the post. The comments are related to the post. You're seeing those posts being shared, whether it's on their platforms or others, or even just word of mouth. You much rather invest in that person than with the person that has a large following where you're not seeing a direct return on your investment.
Got it. So as a brand, you want to make sure that there's real engagement, that they're actually getting their audience to engage, they're commenting, they're sharing, they're liking. It's not just a matter of, hey, this person has 10,000 followers. It's more about, but are they engaged? Are they,
Absolutely.
are they listening? Will they listen to them? And I think that's really important because most people listening are either going to be entrepreneurs, real estate investors, maybe have their own small business. So you may not be in a position to go out and afford some big time celebrity or even a decent sized micro influencer to do this. But there are ways to tap into this in a way that allows you to grow your reach. And it really comes down to true impact on your audience. If you can have great influence, real impact, it's a great way to grow. And I'll tell you as an example, right? I know a lot of people are looking to grow their followers on social media. And would it be fair to say that it's less important to get to 10,000 followers and more important to engage the audience that you currently have and then scale more organically that way?
Yeah, build it and they'll come. Simple as that. I mean, that's a simple philosophy, but oftentimes people feel like they need to have X amount of followers in order to, have a great business. I mean, yes, you want a following, but you want a following that's engaged. You want a following that's going to speak on your behalf in a positive way. You want a following that's going to leave those great customer reviews. So if there's someone who's a bit apprehensive about supporting your brand or product, and a lot of people rely on Yelp reviews or just reviews in general, and they'll base their business decision or purchase off of that. So building that small audience and having them become advocates or influencers of your product, brand, or service is the best way to grow your following. And another part of it too is, now more than ever, we're realizing that, digital is no longer just a tool in the toolkit. You know what I'm saying? It's like brands and marketers have moved from a digital first goal to a digital only reality. And it's completely changed the weight of the conversation around digital experiences for brands and consumers alike.
Yeah, I mean, you talked about the impact going from, digital first or mobile first is where we were pushing, a couple of years ago, and now it's digital only. So, I mean, you really have to pivot and shift and rely almost solely on the digital presence. As we think about the brand side of things and even small brands, small companies, real estate investors, as you're looking to tap into this, grow your following, there's certainly some things that you can do tapping into micro influencers. Give me some best practices. If I'm looking to, get my brand to drive awareness or build more recognition, what are some best practices when reaching out to micro influencers or influencers to gain that awareness?
I mean, it goes back to the idea of authenticity, right? So tapping into your network, like your network is your core group of friends, families, whatever the case may be. But tapping into your network and identifying, the authenticity within that, those are the people you want to leverage to help drive, your business. You think about the notion of word of mouth marketing and how that helps propel brands to the next level. It's like the old saying, like, if you know, it's like everybody's looking for, or everybody's seeking something new. But there's ways to engage people where you can have something that, may be for a niche audience, but the moment that you tap that right person, or the moment that, someone with a bigger following, or someone who has a bigger impact on a larger audience, just advocates or even just shares a post about your brand, you can start to see that ripple effect. Because again, it's built off authenticity, because this person actually has, or is actually invested in your product, and they're advocating for it to their network. And that's a great way to, build your following off of, whether it's a shoestring budget, or, just not having the means or the access to micro influencers. Like, you'd be surprised at who, could be an influencer that may not even have social media, or may not even have the following that you think a micro influencer needs to have. So tap into your network, see what their interests are, and identify ways to engage and interact with them in a way that's authentic, that lends to not only just the credibility of your product, brand, or service, but also in a way that can help, drive business.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. It's really, in some ways, just taking testimonials and putting some steroids behind it, right? Because if you can find the right testimonials, people who have influence, people who have an audience, people who have a platform, and leverage those testimonials, that's going to help you attract new people, because if they're out there sharing the good work, the products, the service that you have, that's going to make it work. So if you are, let's say, a real estate investor, and if you're like me, you raise capital for deals, if you can have some of those investors share what they're doing, and if any of them actually have a network or an audience themselves, and they can talk about working with you, what that experience is like, that's going to be a great way to expand. And the more you can do that in social, the better, obviously. But this whole concept of tapping into influencers, that's really what we're talking about: is how do you build a relationship, give somebody an authentic experience, and then allow them to share that experience with the masses and their audience, and allow that to grow. That's the reason we do things like podcasts, meetups, conferences, all of these things for real estate investors. It's really a way of tapping into some of these other influencers or micro influencers. So keep that in mind as you're looking to scale and grow. If you're looking to work with other people, this is a great way to get in and start to do it. So the names may change, but whether you want to call it micro influence or whatever, but the point is this: you want to build rapport. You want to be able to tap into people's network and audiences and let them vouch for you. And that's really going back to celebrity endorsements. That's ultimately what that is, right? If
Yeah.
you go get LeBron James, and if LeBron's willing to wear your product or use your product, it has to reach a certain level of credibility for him to be willing to put his name on it. And that's a similar kind of thing here, even working with kind of a micro influencer, or somebody who maybe isn't a celebrity outside of their tight circle.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, referrals are the best way to get repeat business, and that's really the same mindset that both celebrity and influencer marketing has. It's really just, a referral on steroids.
Yeah, no, I love it, man. Appreciate it. Let's switch to the other side, right? So there are folks who are actively looking to, whether you build their customer network, looking to attract more clients, maybe getting more investors, and they're working to build a personal brand to help attract that new business for themselves. When you are starting out building that personal brand, I know you work with a whole lot of influencers. So when you're starting out building that, like, what are some best practices? Should we pick one social media platform? Should we try to go across all of them and just see where we get some traction? What's your best take on getting started?
That's a great question. I mean, because that's always a challenge that, in my experience, brands have presented, right? It's like identifying the right ways or the right platforms to engage your audience. And in some instances, this could be something new, so you're not necessarily sure on how to activate on these platforms, or how to engage with folks on these platforms. So, as a best practice, I would say just always, review the landscape of the market. Take a look at what you would identify as your competitors, see what they're doing, whether it's right, wrong or indifferent, and try to find ways to add value to what they're doing, but in a unique way, in a way that's unique to what you do. Try to find something that's ownable, So in looking at that, that's always been something that I've looked to instill in the brands that I'm working with is like if you sell, let's just say water, right? If you sell water, but you have so many other competitors that sell water, when looking to brand, I always take one of my mentors and someone I used to work with in the past is Damon John, one of the founders of Fubu, who now is on Shark Tank and, sharing business advice across the world. But he always told me to approach things through the lens of item, label, brand, lifestyle. Okay. So just to break that down in a bit more context, when you look at the item is the same as just water. Okay. But the way that you differentiate yourself from the beginning is the label. So the packaging, the way the water is packaged, whether you're using a small or a tall or a short bottle, whatever the case may be. So that's your first entry point of differentiating yourself from competitors. But then as you get into the branding, it's like, okay, now that you have the item, now that you have the product, it's labeled, it's packaged, how are you going to market it out to the world? How do you brand it? So being able to identify those core values that your brand stands on is going to be something that you want to resonate with your audience, because that's what they're going to identify with. And that's what's going to make you uniquely different from competitors or, a similar product that they may already be engaged with. But then down to the lifestyle, it's like, okay, how do you celebrate the lifestyle of this product? Or what's the first thing that comes to mind when you think of this product? Is this something that you would look to grab when you think of this key moment? So if it's a product like Smart Water, where it's like, there's something about Smart Water that makes me think like, man, I feel like if I go and grab this, I'm going to get this value out of it. So that's kind of like, the framework that I feel that can be applied to any aspect of business, whether it's real estate, marketing, advertising, is being able to identify those four things. Again, item, label, brand, and lifestyle, and really finding out those nuances. And that's a core differentiator of how you can set yourself apart from competitors and identify, your place in the marketplace.
And that's powerful right there. And great tip coming from, one of the best known entrepreneurs in this country, Damon John. But item, label, brand, lifestyle. I mean, that's right there is a powerful insight that all of us can use in trying to figure out, how do we stand out? How do we connect? How do we grow our personal brand? We talked a little bit about, whether or not you should be on one platform or trying to, connect on multiple platforms.
Mm-hmm.
I think one thing too is like, figure out where your audience is. The more you understand your target market, who you're trying to connect with, understanding the psychographics of it, right? That gets into the lifestyle piece. But the more you understand that, the easier it's going to be to figure out where to play. With that said, there's new platforms coming out. I feel like every month there's something new. If we were recording this 2 months ago, we probably would have been talking about TikTok. But, as of the time we're recording this, Clubhouse has really started to build some momentum. If you haven't heard of Clubhouse, we'll certainly link to it. You can check it out. But with so many social media platforms, help us just figure out like where should we start, right? It's like, do you try to get on the new platform because, hey, maybe there's less competition and we can kind of get in early and start to engage there? Or do you stick with the bigger platforms, the Facebooks, the Twitters, because there's already a groundswell audience built up there?
Yeah, that's a really, really great question. And I say that because, the evolution of social media as a whole has changed. Social media has changed drastically since its inception. It's no longer a space reserved for just social interaction. It's now seen as a marketplace for inspiration, innovation, as well as purchasing. So when you look at some of these newer platforms, or to answer your question, I think it goes back to what I was saying about identifying where your audience is and identifying I guess it's like identifying the solution that you have to their pain point. Okay. Because again, that goes back to how you can differentiate yourself from competitors. So when you look at newer platforms, like for me, I like to stay up abreast of these platforms just so, I can provide my perspective on it when speaking with clients, but also just to get an understanding of how these platforms work, so I can make the best recommendations. Because what you've started to see, like over the summer and even throughout quarantine with the lockdown, TikTok was one of those platforms that just kind of, rose to the top. But it's for a younger audience. It's for the Gen Zers, which is a, very younger demographic. So brands had to find unique ways to engage with those folks. And it goes back to the idea of influencers. Like some of these are just kids. They're not celebrities. They don't have thousands or let me take a step back. Like some of them are just kids. They're not celebrities, but they built a following again based on shared values. And some of them now have hundreds and hundreds of thousands of followers, but they're authentic because they had been doing something. They're a part of the demographic for one, and they were doing something that they all could resonate and relate with. And that's how they were able to build their following. So now people come to them, as whether it's authoritative within a space or just to see the new thing that's happening. That's how they engage with these newfound influencers. So when you look at a platform like Instagram and how they've implemented some of, TikTok's practices within their platform, it's inspiring. It goes to show that this is the next wave of social media. But again, it's now turned into a marketplace where you're able to now, purchase things by a swipe up or the click of a button, opposed to just being able to like and comment on the post.
Yeah, I think to your point, it's like understanding the audience. I mean, TikTok is certainly a platform that is continuing to grow. Instagram certainly, and Facebook as a company felt the threat and started
Mhm.
to incorporate, some of the items or the features that were really appealing on that platform to try to curtail some of that. And as an investor, as an entrepreneur, as someone looking to build a brand or build a connection with an audience, you need to be informed of these platforms and then make a decision. Hey, is this serving my audience? And today it may not, and you may need to keep your eye on it because answer may be different in the future. But that's really the best thing you can do is figure out, hey, is my audience here? Will they be here? And at what point do I need to start engaging? But I do think that if you've mastered a platform, I do think you have more room to experiment. But if you're not even on Instagram, you probably need to lock in on, what you're already doing. Try to get as good as you can there, because just being below average across 5 platforms is not going to help you at all. So try to get good, really good at 1 or 2 platforms before you start to really explore different opportunities.
And just to add to that real quick, is beyond understanding the platforms to understand how they work, but also, dig a bit deeper and identify the tools that you have access to within those platforms, right? You look at how, you can scroll through your timeline and you see sponsored posts or targeted posts. Sometimes from outside looking in, people feel like because the sponsored posts they're getting are from some of these big corporations and brands, that's not something that they can, implement within their business strategy. But you'd be surprised at how much you can, pay to get or to do targeted posts and the impact that it can have on your business. Like, or being able to leverage the tools such as insights, where you may think that, your core audience is in your hometown, but you'd be surprised at what some of these insights can uncover and how you can implement those insights into your business strategy to where you can say, man, yeah, my home base is here in, let's just say Philadelphia, but I see that I have an uptick in audience growth in Chicago. So what if I just, targeted some posts to those people in Chicago or identified influencers in Chicago that can be advocates for my brand because I'm not there, or whatever the case may be. So I say that to say it's beyond just looking at or getting an understanding of the platform, and the different nuances across each, but understand the tools that these platforms offer to help grow your business.
Yeah, now I'll go back to what you said earlier too. Like we are living in a digital only world in some cases for marketers. So you really do have to get more adept at how to tap into the resources that are there. And for context, people, if you've never run a Facebook ad, maybe you can give some context of, what's like the minimum from a budget standpoint that I need to run a Facebook ad campaign.
I mean, it's kind of subjective. I mean, it's really about, I'll say this. I've been in situations or have, consulted with small businesses where they've been able to invest anywhere from $500 to $1,500 on targeted posts. And the impact that they've seen from that had allowed for them to see a great return on their investment. But again, it's about what works for you and what you're looking to accomplish, because you have the opportunity to set the parameters of whether or not you want this to be a rolling cost until you feel like you've hit, you know, your numbers, or if you want to do this to get a sense of, okay, this will be more of like a strategy to get a sense of, how this tool operates, so that can help inform better business decisions.
Yeah, and I would say too, for small entrepreneurs, when I say small, what I mean is, for folks who don't have a huge marketing budget. I mean, you can even start lower than that. I mean, you can
Yeah.
start with $5 a day or something like that and really just lock in on the folks who are most likely to do business with you. People who've already come to your website, for instance,
Hmm.
to retarget them simply with Facebook ad or Google ad. There are things that we can do to incorporate that can help us with our driving awareness, but also our conversions, right? Because if you are getting people to your website, but then they leave, you don't know if they fulfilled their need or whatever drove them to the website in the first place or not. So to build the mechanisms and the triggers that allow you to serve that customer, that client, that investor throughout their process, that's going to help you stand out. So it's not always about going to get, the big flashy campaign or influencer, but some of these blocking and tackling things in a digital world can make you a more efficient business owner and allow you to see greater returns on your investment as well.
Absolutely.
It's I want to talk one more time about just influencers. I think we said micro influencer a couple of times, and maybe I don't think we actually explain what a micro influencer is. So, can you elaborate on exactly what a micro influencer is, and how does that differentiate from, I guess, a regular influencer?
Yeah, I mean, micro influencers are more of like the people I discussed earlier who have those, smaller followings, but also still have a niche following, where they may not be the person that, has 10,000 followers. They're the person that has 1,000 followers, but has a huge impact on those 1,000 followers, whether it's people who come to them because they see them as thought leaders within a specific space, or they see them as someone who just has a vast knowledge of information about many things. So they go to them, and they're comfortable with sharing that information. So they go to them for that information. As when in other cases, some of the larger influencers, you may see them working with, 5 different brands throughout the month. So it kind of loses a bit of that value. And from a consumer standpoint, they're like, oh, this person is just getting a check. I mean, it could be looked at that way, but I say that to say, with the micro influencers, you know, there's a strong likelihood that they're invested in this product, not from a monetary standpoint, but invested in this product because it holds value to them and what they stand for. So when you go to their page or to their platforms and they're speaking on a product, brand, or service, it's something that they're invested in because it's a part of their everyday life. So it's natural for them to speak on it and advocate for it on behalf of the brand. Which is a way better value than, trying to find somebody who's working with, you know, a competitor of yours 2 weeks later or 2 weeks prior. It's like it serves no purpose. So it's better to start with the micro influencers to get a sense of, you know, what your niche audience is, or, how to operate within those audiences and identifying people who add value to, what you're looking to basically add value, and if it's in service to the product, brand, or service you're offering.
And then I mean, that process, right? I mean, for a small business owner, real estate investor, whatever, for someone who is looking to leverage influencer marketing, but they've never done it. They don't know these people. Certainly, they may follow them on social media. I mean, is it okay just to send a direct message, or like what's the right process or protocol to reach out and start engaging in a conversation about hiring someone to be an influencer for them?
Yeah, I mean, you could just simply hire me and I can consult for you. And I mean, but honestly, what we all have to remember, celebrities, influencers alike, is like we're all human. We're all human. So it's like the same way you would engage and approach someone on the street to just have a general conversation is the same way you should approach, influencers. Because again, they're people too. So that was always my thing of how like I mentioned earlier about, how I built some of these relationships with influencers without even working in the space. This was just me having that thirst for knowledge and wanting to learn more. So it's like they appreciate those types of conversations when it's like it's less about um like when it's an insightful and engaging conversation. Like it's less about, man, can you teach me how to make $10,000? And it's more about, hey, what information or what resources can you give me to help me be better at this? you know so all in all, I think it's just about identifying the right people, but identifying the ways in which you want to work with them and tying that into the conversation that you have with them. So that way you can show the value that you can whether add to the relationship that you're looking to have with them, or you try to find information and insights that you can leverage to help inform whatever it is that you're doing.
Ish, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
A failure. Say that one more time.
Yeah, give me a failure or an apparent failure that sets you up for later success.
Wow. I like that question because I think there's, so much in it. But for me, I really had to, realize that there's no shame in asking questions, right? Asking questions for many of us, makes us feel vulnerable. But at the same time, asking questions in a lot of ways is not only helpful in, discovering a person's perspective or individual perspective way of thinking about something and their mental blocks, but also, applying specific mindsets to help them achieve their goals. So I definitely have failed a lot because I didn't ask questions. But as I've uncovered that theory about, there's no shame in asking questions, I've been able to, succeed a lot more and implement that practice in the work that I do. Because again, it just helps you uncover the challenges that you may be facing, but also generate better solutions to solve some of the problems that you may have. So yeah, I hope that answered your question. I wanted to make sure I understood it, but could give some insight as to, how it's worked for me or what I've been able to identify.
Absolutely. Give me a digital or mobile. Let me say it again. Give me a digital or mobile resource you recommend for business.
I would say think with Google, especially for, marketers, or small businesses, and everyone else in between. Think with Google is really just a resource to be able to uncover trends, insights, data points, so forth and so on in a snackable way at your fingertips and without any barrier entries or entry barriers, whatever, term is, barriers of entry. It's not cost prohibitive. Like, you can just log in and you can begin searching for what you need, and it'll help you be a better business person because you'll be able to digest the information in a way that is understandable, but also get the tools and resources you need to be better at what you're looking to do, with informed insights and data points to support that.
Give me the book you've recommended or gifted the most in the last year.
I would say there's a few, but I mean, for the sake of this conversation, what I feel has been the most impactful for me and for those that I've shared it with is The One Thing. You familiar with that?
Gary Keller. Yes.
Absolutely. So with that book, I mean, for those who may not be familiar, I mean, it just really uncovers how no matter, how success is measured, right? Whether it's personal or professional, the ability to dismiss distractions and concentrate on your one thing stands between you and your goals. So somebody shared that book with me and I couldn't understand why. I just was like, but then as I read it, I was like, okay, this person knows me more than I know myself. And it has allowed for me to be successful or find success in many ways. So that's become like a stocking stuffer or just a recommended book that, I share with people when, I know they're trying to start a new business or just find ways to be better professionals. So.
Give me a daily habit that helps you stay focused on your goals.
Honestly, it's disconnecting and writing things down. The more and more we leverage technology, the more and more, it hinders us in our ability to do things. Like writing things down for me has been just like a simple, self-care practice that I've built into my daily routine. Like, it's had a huge impact on transforming my goals and desires into my reality. It's no different than having a vision board, but there's something about just writing thoughts down that just, it just opens up your subconscious to be able to see, opportunities that can't be observed, when they're tied up, when you're just thinking about them. So I just always like to write things down. Obviously, over these last few months, I've been doing it a lot more just because I've had a lot more time to really focus and concentrate on a specific effort. But I make sure I at least contribute 1 to 2 hours a day writing out thoughts, whether it's just things that I've learned throughout the day, questions that I may want to revisit the next day, or things that I want to accomplish in both the short and long term. There's always a reference point when it's written down, or it's always been a great reference point for me when written down versus it, being saved in a document on the computer. That computer crashes tomorrow, I have nothing. But, God forbid my notebook gets wet or I misplace it, I at least, writing it down also just helps develop, a trained thought of being able to retain information or recall information a lot better than just, storing it on a mobile device.
What's one thing you know now that you wish you knew when you were starting out?
I think it might go back to no shame and asking questions. It's definitely, been an eye opener for me. So just to reiterate on that, asking questions, is way more beneficial than trying to find a solution on your own. Like, it saves you time because the person that you may ask, you're asking them, whether it's because you trust their feedback or perspective, but they also may be an expert in whatever it is that you're looking to get some insight on. So asking those questions or asking that person a question can only help you more than it'll hurt you trying to, spend more time trying to identify a solution when you can just ask a trusted source.
What are you curious about right now?
I'm curious about fintech. I feel like, digital currency is going to be a thing of the past, right? When you think of, the way of the world right now, contactless solutions is the key to stay safe, but also it's just become a habit in how we pay for things, whether it's, at your grocery store and you're using Apple Pay or Square, to just, sending your landlord money or collecting money from a friend or family, using platforms like Zelle or Cash App, Venmo, so forth and so on, or even Apple Pay. I think paper or physical currency is going to be a thing of the past, and everything's going to be digital.
All right. So I know that you bounce between Chicago and Philly and probably other places too, but I'm going to let you pick between Chicago and Philadelphia. But give me the best place to grab a bite.
I mean, I got to keep it homegrown, got to keep it homegrown. So I'm going to say, if you're ever in Philadelphia, you have to, trust me, you have to go to, it's an establishment that a friend of mine owns, not a shameless plug, just keeping it real, but it's an establishment called Down North Pizza. It's on 28th and Lehigh, so Lehigh Avenue between 28th and 29th Street. And it's really beyond them just having really great pizza. It's a true testament to the spirit of the neighborhood, all right, which is North Philadelphia, because for so many in that neighborhood and other, underserved neighborhoods across the world, where a lot of our brothers and sisters have just kind of fell victim to the streets, what led to incarceration. Down north, they exclusively employ formerly incarcerated individuals, while also providing both culinary and career opportunities at a fair wage, as well as an equitable workplace. So if you're ever in Philly, not only are you going to get some amazing pizza, but an amazing experience, but you'll be contributing to a good cause and keeping, those employed who deserve a second chance.
Oh man,
So,
great, man.
tell Kurt I sent you. I don't know if you'll get a discount, but I just know your food will be made with love and you'll enjoy it and you'll tell a friend, tell a friend.
I love it, Ish. Hey man, thank you for sharing that. Down North Pizza. You said 28th, between 28th and 29th in Lehigh, right?
Yep.
Awesome, man. All right, next time we're in North Philly, we'll definitely make sure that's on the list. It's always good catching up with you, man. You gave a lot of great insights, especially helping us wrap our heads around, how to tap into influencer marketing. If you are looking to build a personal brand or looking to grow your network, your awareness, looking at potential partnerships is one way to go about that. But then also understanding that, it's really about serving your audience. And if you can figure out, what's lacking, that's going to be the best way in. Your Damon John, quote there, as well is really insightful, really helpful to think about, where we stand and how we can differentiate ourselves to drive that connection. For listeners who want to get in touch, learn more about you and just follow you and some of the insights you have, what's the best way to reach out?
I'm mainly on Instagram. My handle is ISH_CYL. So that's ish_CYL. And then my LinkedIn, I believe, is just my first and last name. We can link it in this, but I'm always available, to just engage. I'm always looking to, like I said, I have a thirst for knowledge. So I'm always looking to engage with folks. So whether you just want to continue this conversation or, get some insights or even just share a dialogue about how we can help each other grow, I'm open to it, or whatever. I'm down. So I'll share it and we can link it in this. But before we go, I think, one other bill that I want to add as it relates to, digital marketing is, especially as, we've all had to evolve in, the response of COVID, is that home has become the new battleground. Where before, you had experiential events, you had conferences, but in the absence of those in real life events and limited in-person interaction, we have to get strategic and find ways or unique ways to pivot, and identify ways to bring in real life digital experiences, because digital is the one place, that didn't shut down when most of the world did, whether it's Zoom baby showers, virtual happy hours, or one of my favorites, D-Nice's Club Quarantine. All of life's experiences, happen in the comfort of our homes with a digital platform as the entry point. So if you're looking to be innovative, if you're looking to, be creative or find new ways to engage with your audience, the level field has, the playing field has been leveled and home has become the new battleground. So find ways to engage with your audience, similar to what you have with your platform, your podcast. Like, you're doing nothing than sharing the same information that you would on social media, but in a new way. Some people may be better listeners than they are readers. So you found a way to share that same information with an audience who, is a bit more receptive through listening. It may be because they're always on the go, or, they're able to retain more information by being able to listen to it, opposed to having to sit down and read it. So for those out there who are marketers or in, just someone looking to find new ways to drive business, again, the playing field has been leveled. Home is the new battleground. Find ways to engage with your audience at home, whether it's through a podcast, through social media, or, just look for it. And like I said, there are many tools and resources that are out there to leverage or to, to be of use that you can, look into to help identify those different ways to tap into those audiences at home. Take advantage of them. Like I said, Think with Google is one of my favorite resources and has been a great resource for me over the years. It will continue to be one. So I wouldn't be me if I didn't share that information with the world. Because again, the more knowledge you have, the more equipped you can be, and the better chance that you have at becoming an expert in your respective field.
Ish, man, always dropping them bombs, man. Appreciate you greatly. It's good to see you, and I know we'll be in touch again soon. But thank you for coming on Target Market Insights, the Multifamily and Marketing Show.
Thank you, brother.